Okay, so I'm connected to my pick line here, so give me a second. I need to move my anchor so I don't keep ripping it out of my arm. Or whatever it is I'm doing. Alright, so I have the new tripod going, people that are watching, and I'm trying to fit everybody in, and like I feel like...
Can they hear us over there?
We don't have very many people on, like I literally just got it going, but I will ask them that. I just want to move the furniture. So if they participate, yes, they can. I don't know if they can see me once I've seated. That's what I'm trying to fix. All right.
Cuddle up.
Of course.
So we are just setting up, guys. Can you guys? Well, we're not really talking. We're gonna need to find out from y'all how you can how well you can hear. So let me know if you're like, you know, I don't have a set of headphones for the phone. I don't think we're gonna need one though. I don't think we'll need a set.
The lobby. It's the western lobby.
Yeah.
No. Those you don't pay for. They won't let you. I tried.
Hey, Crystal. So yeah, we're just getting started.
It keeps fading out.
That's what we found out. So we might end up just being in and out. We'll see how it goes. As soon as Jay gets this on, we'll do your interview. Until then.
So yeah, Jay, you guys know Jay, and he's gonna finish getting our stuff set up, but we need to know how well you can hear us. So I guess maybe y'all should talk to each other so they can tell me if...
Alright, cool. Hey, CannaMama, can you hear us right now? Can you give us a 2 if you can hear us well? If you cannot hear us well, please drop a 3. Let us know if you can hear us, please. Testing.
That's
check,
my easy way of getting answers from people is our numbers. Yeah, people drop numbers faster than they'll comment.
They said they can barely hear us. Let's bring this.
That's what I thought was gonna happen, and we won't all be able to be in the video if I bring it closer.
We got it.
Can we lift it up a little bit to make it?
I don't think so.
I think the sound is more important.
Alright, that should have fixed it. Really sorry, guys. I had 2 in.
And we don't have an extra set of headphones, right, Jay?
Just have the 4.
Do we have an available plug-in if I plug in earbuds, or no? Are we using all of them?
All 4. It's just
So you have a pair.
I know. They can't hear us very well.
you guys are not live.
Hey, welcome to Hanging Out with CannaMama Clinic. My name is Gina Poe. I'm your host today, co-host Daphne and I, and Lady A in the house. We have a special show today. We are coming live from the Westin Hotel in Denver, Colorado, from the Medical Marijuana Professionals Conference. And we have a special guest with us currently, so I'm going to skip all of our intro stuff that we typically do so that we can get this interview going.
Gina, can you speak louder?
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Perry has to go. I know how to project. Dr. Perry Solomon has to go to a lunch meeting, and so thank you very much for your time.
Sure, glad to be here.
I spoke with you a little bit yesterday, very briefly, and we got into a little discussion about pregnancy and cannabis consumption, and I just wanted you to recap what you spoke about yesterday for us.
Okay, sure. I'm Dr. Perry Solomon. I'm the Chief Medical Officer at COWCMC. We're a California-based company that's the leading provider of information and cannabis recommendations digitally about health and wellness throughout the country, but we do online recommendations also for people wanting to get cannabis recommendations in California.
Whoa, I didn't even know that. So people can, from the state of California, if they show you their license and say, hey, I want a recommendation, you go through all this stuff, and you can do it online. So you don't even have to go into your office.
Correct.
That's awesome.
That's,
Can you tell us
I can
your
tell
company again?
that is, it's HelloMD, HELLOMD.com. And as long, you don't even have to be, that's my whole talk later today at this conference is about telehealth and cannabis. And essentially we started because in October 2014, the Medical Board of California changed the rules so that they allowed telehealth evaluations for patients wishing to get cannabis recommendations. So
That is awesome.
people with no access, people with no transportation, people with mobility issues, people who don't have a physician near them, people who don't have the ability to get to a doctor or overcharge the doctors who are in a bad area of town now can go on their cell phone, on their computer, and link up with the doctor to be able to get interviewed to see if their condition warrants a cannabis recommendation.
Wow, that's cool. What year did you say that was passed? 2014?
In October 2014 is when the law was changed in California with the medical board, and our company started in March 2015. So right now we have about 25 doctors that see patients all over California remotely. The patients can be anywhere in California, and they don't necessarily have to be California residents either. Anyone in the state of California can get a recommendation, and some dispensaries will say you need to show proof that you're actually a California resident. Most dispensaries will still honor our recommendation and still be able to purchase cannabis even if you're not a resident of California.
So what you're telling me is you can be a tourist and
Correct.
perhaps get
Thank you so
a
much.
recommendation for the time you're in the state.
Absolutely. We have partners that we hook up with so that they can seamlessly go online to their dispensary, whatever, and then if they need the recommendation, come over to HelloMD, get the recommendation, the information gets transferred to the dispensary, and they can walk into the dispensary or get it delivered to their room or house or wherever they're staying, and not have to show any California ID.
Wow, that's really cool. I want this in Colorado.
Well, I'm talking about, I would like to have it in every state, but essentially what I talk about is that in 48 states in the union allow telehealth evaluations and telehealth exams for many, many different medical conditions and many different specialties. Governments pay for it, Medicare pays for it, private insurance companies pay for it, but out of the 29 states in DC that have medical cannabis, only 2 allow cannabis recommendations telehealth-wise, and that's California and Nevada. So all the other states restrict access, as far as I'm concerned, to patients who would like to get a cannabis recommendation but are unable to see a physician for whatever reason it is.
Okay, wow. You just blew my mind because I did not even know that's what you did. I wanted you here for a whole different reason, and now I'm like, wow, this is cool.
Well, it is, and other states don't allow it, and there's lots of different reasons why.
Like mine telling us like 3 reasons why not.
3. I have only 4 essentially that I had. I mean, a lot of it is physicians a couple of reasons. I mean, they don't want to do it. I mean, telehealth-wise in general. Okay, there's a couple of reasons for telehealth. One, a lot of the medical boards are maintained, and their composition is by physicians who have practices in their offices. So there is some turf battles that are being fought in medicine. It's also that they feel that they don't want to get involved in cannabis recommendations in the first place because no one wants to be known as a pot doc, and they don't get referrals from other physicians to do the recommendations. And there's a lot of companies, quite frankly, because they did a study in New York State. They had 500 physicians, and only one was even thought to be willing to do an in-person interview with anybody. Why that is that there's a fee involved in terms of you have to pay a fee to get approved by the state. You have to take CME credits, which everyone should take anyway. And so the physicians, at least in New York, only 1 out of the 500 that were polled want to do it. And then there's a huge, quite frankly, ignorance level in terms of the legislature knowing that what cannabis can do for patients. And physicians, there's 144 medical schools in the country. 1 teaches a course on the endocannabinoid system. 13% of the other 143 talk about it briefly in various degrees. So doctors are coming out uninformed, uneducated, so they go into the outdoor practice and they don't know what to talk to their patients about.
You know, something that kind of talking about the doctors not wanting to do it, not wanting to be involved and stuff. I'm originally from like a small area in southern Illinois, and I have a couple of medical things. I've got Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and then I've got braces secondary to that, and I deal with a lot of pain and stuff. And so I had this doctor in central Illinois who wanted to put me on a methadone clinic before signing a cannabis card. And I was like, can you please, he had me write out, type out that I agreed that if he signed my cannabis recommendation, that A, I would tell no one, and B, that I would be in agreement to start tapering my opiates once I had access to use the card. So that I did. I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm willing to do that, to give it a shot. But then the state of Illinois ended up publishing his name as one of the physicians in the state who support medical cannabis because he had signed my recommendation. So now his name is on this list of pot doctors, and he's like, he didn't, you know, he was like, I don't, he's upset. He was like, I told you not to tell anybody. I'm like, I didn't tell anybody. But he's like, well, I didn't know that the state was going to do that. Did I?
And that's probably the last time we'll do that.
Yeah, probably, unfortunately. Like, he would rather have had, I'm 25, and he would have rather had me on a methadone program than let me even attempt cannabis first.
No, there's no question about it. I mean, and a lot of my colleagues, other physicians who I associate with still have the misconception that cannabis is just for people getting high. It doesn't have any medicinal value. And so one of the things that we do with our thousands and thousands of patients is we recently did a study in January and told people and polled them as to what they use it for, their medical conditions, etc. And they turned out 86% of them said that they got great relief, strongly agreed with the fact that they got great relief for the medical condition that they used it for. 66% said that they use it every day. And 64% said that it's the only thing that they use for to treat their medical condition. So it absolutely works. And so we use these big numbers that we've generated to be able to show that cannabis does work to help educate not only physicians but legislatures and hopefully move telehealth out of the darkness in terms of having to schlep to a doctor's office so that you can do it in another way.
I think it's an amazing idea, and we hear about it all the time from CannaMamas who cannot effectively get to a dispensary because they have children with them all the time. Yeah, it's a real problem, and not so much just for the CannaMamas, but for the law enforcement as well. We just had a woman here that got a child service ticket, whatever. Basically, a child engagement, is that what it is? She left her
kid in the car.
Yeah, she left her kids in the car so that she could go to the dispensary. And whether or not it's medicinal is really irrelevant at that point. You left your kids in the car to go to a dispensary.
So there's no delivery services?
There's no delivery service.
And there's no like
in
drive-through or
Colorado.
anything yet, right? Like,
Some have. Are there any?
I haven't
There's not
seen
even one.
anything drive-through.
I don't think that that's legal in the way that the legislation is written.
Been to ones that it might not have been in the state.
It's not supposed to be within like the driver's reach, like similar to alcohol. So I don't think a dispensary would sell to someone behind the wheel.
You are correct. However, there was grandfathered in a couple of collectives that were allowed to deliver. Blue Mountains was one of those collectives. And there was one other that I believe still operates called the Colorado Cannabis Club.
Okay. Interesting.
And they, if you remember, it's medical, and if you remember, they will deliver, right? But those are like years past grandfathered in. They have a few patients, and that's right.
Well, delivery services is definitely something that's very big in California.
Right.
And the main reason is, like you said, is people aren't able to get to a dispensary or get to cannabis to be able to get recommended.
Right. It's amazing. I really want to do it. I can't wait to see that here.
We can listen to them talk at 2:30 and 2:45. Anyway, what else would you like to talk about?
So what we started talking about, you were, correct me if I'm wrong, I would say you were a little intrigued by what we do.
Yes, we have 25 physicians that work with us, and we've spoken internally and also in research, as much as we're able to see about pregnancy and breastfeeding and cannabis use. And quite frankly, I'm not surprised about the use because people still do what they want to do. But we have not a written policy, but all of the physicians who work with us will not do a recommendation for a woman who is pregnant or breastfeeding. And the main reason, there's two main reasons I think. Doing studies for pro and con, whether or not someone uses it and the effects on the child are impossible to have, impossible to find, and that are good studies. I know there's a whole thing in Jamaica and this, and that's not really, we haven't really looked at those too closely because of, there's a lot of other things that are involved in a study like that. The main thing that comes down is really these two, is that you really just take a chance on whether it would affect the child, whether it's breastfeeding or an in vitro child. You don't know what's going to happen. It's mostly kind of pay your money and you take your chance. Will it affect the child? It might and it might not. if you do, you'll never know what that child possibly could have been like if you hadn't used it. And any type of thing that you see in the child, you could possibly say, well, if I didn't do cannabis, would that way he or she looked, or emotionally or intellectually, get different if they used, or if I did use or didn't use cannabis? As well as a completely different thing, there's the legal aspect in terms of something being wrong with the child, perhaps, and the woman coming to the physician and saying, why did you give me this recommendation if you knew this could have happened or could have happened? I'm not forced to take it, but you gave me the recommendation.
But they recommend, like,
They're not, right.
I just had a baby 14 months ago. My daughter's 14 months, still nursing. I had a UTI for the time I was pregnant. It was awful. I lost so much weight. And they just told me it was over it, which at that point they were pointing out that it had side effects. And clearly that was not an option. Because if you're telling me that there are side effects, like, these haven't been tested on pregnant women. And doctors are like, my doctor sat there and told me this is safe. This is safe, is what my doctor told me. And they don't know that it's safe, and that's what they're still telling pregnant women, but we're not having an option to medicate naturally.
So I guess my question was, how do doctors, if the concern is liability, which obviously I get that, how do doctors avoid liability on one kind of medicine but not this? Is it simply because the scheduling nationally?
I think that's part of it. I think it's also, whether it's the right, I guess it's more of the rights of the child. And that's kind of where it comes in. In other words, you're exposing someone with no choice to something that.
But you do that with opiates.
Well,
Friends who are pregnant and prescribed opiates.
and it has to do also with the scheduling as well.
I think that's
That's a fair answer.
It is a fair answer.
That is a fair answer.
I think
And the
that's,
combination of the two is something that most doctors, a lot of physicians don't want to take. They're willing to take the chance of opiates. Opiates have been around for centuries,
But you know that
essentially.
babies are
To get opioid addiction.
The cannabis has
Absolutely.
been around longer.
Absolutely,
Cannabis has
I
been
agree.
around longer than opiates.
like if we're just talking about
How long things have been around? People have been using cannabis long before they were using opiates to treat anything during pregnancy.
And they're able to get it. I mean, people can still take it, like here in Colorado, for example, you can get it recreationally and use it whenever. It doesn't really make a difference, and no one is really responsible except for the woman who takes the cannabis.
Right.
And so the results of that, or whatever the woman's willing to endure from wherever it comes from, child services or whatever. But now you have another party involved, the physician, who says he's the one that's doing the recommendation. So in
Right.
other words, he's the one that's responsible.
so we actually have quite a few hurdles before we'll ever get doctors to recommend cannabis for women while pregnant. Because what we talked about,
Or breastfeeding, for
yeah.
sure.
I don't tell doctors when I go into my doctor's appointments, I don't want to know that I can cannabis whatsoever.
Right.
Like, not ever.
Because we can't.
Because we can't, they'll put it on the records and you're tagged as.
And then they can charge it. And then theoretically, they're supposed to call child services and say we have a patient who gives cannabis or breastfeeding to their child and endangering the baby's life or health.
Do you feel that it's endangering the baby's life?
I don't have enough information. I personally would not be willing to take the chance, only because I don't know what the end result could be. I just don't know.
What would you say if we told you that we had several CannaMamas who nursed and used concentrates and edibles and smoke, that nursed exclusively like their toddlers, like not exclusively their toddlers, but their infants, and some have tested their toddlers, like they've gone and like gotten drug tests from like drugstores and the dollar store got THC tests and tested their children after nursing them, and they come out negative. What would you say to that?
Well, it's also not that sensitive a test, and they're just testing for THC. They don't test for anything else. So there's other things, obviously, in cannabis, other than THC that you can't test for. So you don't know what else is in the child's system other than THC. It's a urine test and a blood test, it's only THC.
What we do know, doctor, is that cannabis is not toxic. It has been used for tens of thousands of years, and it's really disingenuous to hear doctors say we don't know, when we know that cannabis was removed from the pharmacopoeia forcefully over the objections of the AMA in the 1940s, right? So to hear, like, modern doctors, when you say you don't have that information, it's because it was literally ripped from your education system. It was literally ripped out of the books.
Which he did tell us. Only one
But
medical
schools
school
teaches
talks
about the
it.
endocannabinoids, but and your point is well taken, except that they were talking about anything but pregnancy during the.
I'm sorry, I don't believe it, okay, because if Queen Elizabeth was using it for her menstrual cramps, then they knew that cannabis had its uses, and I just want to finish.
Sure, please, yeah. You're you're very agitated. I like it. It's disingenuous, right? If you look at the history of it. Also, as a scientist, I understand it's very easy to dismiss scientific studies that weren't done in the United States.
Like
But
Jamaica study.
exactly, but to offhand dismiss that study when it was done by professional standards.
And she wasn't biased whatsoever. She had never
and
been in cannabis
I believe she
whatsoever.
was an American doctor.
She was an
Right?
American doctor.
So, you know, it's just, again, it's disingenuous, it's a bit of a cop-out. It holds muster in the academic community, but critically, doctor, come on.
Well, my question is though, obviously you believe in the medical or the efficacy of cannabis.
Absolutely.
So I guess my question is, do you believe that that disappears when the woman becomes pregnant or when she's breastfeeding?
No. It absolutely would work for emesis, for hyperemesis syndrome, and all that stuff. There's no question that it works, and it mainly comes down to address your point is that the concern of what any possible problem that it could cause to the child is not, quite frankly, worth the risk, the benefit.
I disagree. I completely disagree.
I
That's
do.
why.
Well, that's fine. That's why you have this company.
Yeah,
You know,
I
which is great. I know. I absolutely think it's fabulous, and everyone's entitled to their opinion and entitled to exposing their unborn child or their child to whatever it is that they consume.
I trust cannabis that I buy off the street than the Zofran that the doctor prescribed me more than.
I think in that to me is the root of the issue is we want the support of doctors to allow us to
have
take
the option
Right.
to have the take that risk because you do it with opiates and opiates are so much worse.
And all
We
other
see babies come out with withdrawals.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so in those
bad.
instances, it's up to the mother to
No one calls
determine for
CPS
herself
on
and her body what
alcoholics.
is right for her and her family.
correct. And that's the other thing. And
No one calls the authorities on an alcoholic.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And they should.
They should.
There's no question about it.
Or what about smokers of tobacco? I don't see CPS knocking on anybody's door.
So I get
I see doctors even being like, well, cut it down a little bit when you're pregnant.
You shouldn't smoke, you shouldn't drink, and you shouldn't, if you don't have to, take opioids either.
Sure,
right.
Um,
I mean, in the perfect scenario, of course not, but there's clearly medical conditions that require something.
Yes.
And I think what we're really looking, I mean, what would be looking for would be a physician, like say I were to my husband and I were to get pregnant right now, where I am in my life, with my illness, I would like a doctor who says like, okay, we can't stop your opiates, like that, you know, we can taper you to try to get down before this baby's born, but, you know, I want a doctor that says it's okay, that is willing to say like, in your situation, you're probably not putting your child at any more risk by consuming cannabis than you are by being on your opiate schedule.
Right.
So,
I agree.
like, I get it that it's not ethical to do studies on women who are
But it's
pregnant.
not fair to say that it's unsafe either. I mean, you've got women on opiates, you've got women who are taking Zofran.
Yeah, just acknowledging that specific situation,
Not that
or
it's a danger. Like you see all of these warnings, it's danger to pregnant and breastfeeding moms.
But all the medications we talk about that, like with Botox, for example.
Okay.
You know, just as an example of the labeling on all these medications, and they have a whole thing about how the complications can or can't be done. And when it talks about pregnancy, they all pretty much say there have not enough studies to know that this is safe for pregnant breastfeeding women. So we caution you on the use of this medication.
So would you think that would be fair to give the same caution with cannabis as opposed to an extra dose of caution.
It probably would be if it ever got off Schedule 1 drug.
Yeah, I did see that.
But that again falls into the whole scheduling thing, you know. And to get off Schedule 1 to make it what Schedule 2 would be is not the point. It should be deschedulized altogether and be treated like alcohol.
Can you, sorry.
Do you think that doctors would be more willing to suggest it to pregnant women if it were scheduled differently?
No, the problem comes down to, okay, so someone comes with hyperemesis, for example, and they're pregnant, and it's a Schedule 2 or 3 drug, Percocet and Vicodin. The problem is, so you have a prescription pad in front of you, and you write the prescription for Zofran. Take 1 pill every 4 hours for excessive vomiting, excessive nausea. Then you pull out the other prescription pad that says cannabis, and the guy puts a plan on top of the thing and says, well, what do I write for? Do I write for vaping? Do I write for smoking? Do I write for tinctures? What kind of tinctures? Who's inspected this?
What strain?
What strain? What kind of cannabis? What is it that I'm telling you? Then it should be deschedulized altogether.
And that's what he's saying from
Okay,
a physician's
okay,
standpoint. They have to have some sort of standard of,
I understand that.
prescribing practices. And
Right.
so there's no way to
Take one back for vomiting.
to recommend what
I like that.
I think where I would be at would just be like wanting a physician who I guess would maybe like even have my back with CPS
Right.
in my situation and say like, okay, she is either going to use cannabis throughout her pregnancy or she's going to be on opiates throughout her pregnancy.
Right.
One or the other. Like that is happening. And so I don't need a doctor to say like you should use X amount of cannabis or XYZ. Like I just need them to acknowledge that I'm not putting my child or my unborn child at any more of an unknown risk than I am with what I'm currently taking.
And that's a whole other, you know, the CPS is a whole other
Realm.
story. I'm not, that I don't know much about.
Well, actually, I want your, I guess, advice as a medical professional given to CannaMamas and the movement that we are pushing. What can we do to get the support of medical professionals to have CPS step on us?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I guess you'd have to show that there's no harm to the child in one way or another, either unborn or born and breastfeeding.
Or more harmful than pharmaceuticals?
Or less harmful, less harmful than other types of medications that they would normally take. And you know, to even start the discussion would be difficult to get physicians, I think, to participate. I don't know the regulations, quite frankly, in Colorado about who does the recommendations physician-wise. You know, what their education has to be, et cetera, et cetera.
But the thing is, like you said at the beginning of this, that there's only one college medical school that's teaching on the endocannabinoid system, and I think that point that you made is really worth repeating to our viewers and stuff too, because they're like, listen, the doctor said
it's terrible for you.
The doctor said it's
My friend's
not.
doctor told her it was worse than like heroin. That is what my friend's doctor told her for her baby.
Well,
And
and
she
that's
prescribed her like Percocets and narcotics.
And they're uninformed, like as you mentioned. There's no, and a lot of the education that they get, unfortunately, or well, it depends. I mean, at least they try to get educated, is after the fact. They don't get taught that in medical school, and they go through the residency and everything else and set up a practice, and they get exposed to patients who want to get the recommendation and say, well, where can I get educated about this? And so they do their own education. You know, there are courses that we have all our physicians go through, a 12CME course from TMCI, an organization on the East Coast, where they all get educated about cannabis, the history, what to dose, et cetera, et cetera. So they all have a good baseline knowledge. And some of them have been doing it for years. They just happen to be working with us now. So all the physicians who start doing cannabis recommendations should absolutely get some CME credit, or required to get some CME credit to learn more about cannabis and what it can do, because they're, like you said, they're not getting it in medical school.
I think we'd argue all physicians should have seen
All of them.
Yeah, I think you said that
Well,
at the beginning.
and you know what, the other reason that's exactly true is because even if you don't recommend cannabis, you do prescription for cannabis recommendation, now more and more states are legalizing recreational cannabis. Like here in Colorado, we just did it in California last Tuesday. So patients are going to be coming in saying, I'm taking cannabis, how does it react with my other medications? How does it react with the condition that I have? I'm telling you, don't write a recommendation. I don't care if you do or not. I'm going to the store and buying it in 2 years. So I'm taking it. how is this going to help or hurt the condition that I'm at? And that's where they need the education.
Yeah, I agree.
I think too, from hearing people's objections for so long, that they think, because doctors generally are pretty intelligent people, make it through medical school and residency and pass
We can give them that.
the board, and so their boards and all that. So I think a lot of people say, well, listen, if the majority of doctors are saying, don't do the cannabis while you're pregnant thing, then there's a reason.
Right.
And I think it's like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there isn't a reason really. It's just that they're uninformed. The reason is that nobody wants to say,
Oh, maybe
yeah,
I
go
should
ahead and
that,
try
right?
this, and
Why
you know,
would
put
we do this?
themselves at risk. Exactly, because they just don't know. And so it's not that, you know, people are saying, oh, well, I can think of 10 doctors right now, and they all went to medical school all across the country, and every single one of them says, hold off on the cannabis while pregnant. That doesn't mean that it's not an okay thing to do. From my point of view, it's just that it causes the general civilian culture, I guess, for the lack of better.
Socialization of cannabis.
They say, for them to even hear doctors say, it's worth looking into, or like in my situation, like, okay, maybe in your specific situation, I would be comfortable saying, that you're probably not putting your fetus at any higher risk. But it's the fact that nobody is saying that. They're not they're not hearing the medical professionals saying that. And so then they're like, well, it's obviously not safe.
You're a terrible mother, you just want to get high.
Well, look, we hear that all the time anyway. People say, why get a recommendation? People just getting the recommendation to be able to get high,
Right.
And it's been like that in California for years, and yet the study that we did, it was 17,000 patients, 84% said it helped for their medical condition. So it's not as if it didn't work for whatever condition they got it for. And again, to close the loop, it's really the risk. Is there a risk to the fetus and to the child when you use cannabis? And I don't think you'll get anybody to say there's no risk, and I don't think you'll get anybody to say, oh, it's absolutely harmless. It doesn't make a difference
I think
to
that
anything.
that's irresponsible because you don't know, maybe the mom has an allergy or something. We don't know.
You don't know, and to say that it's safe, I don't think any physician will probably ever say that. They may say, we don't know. Well, that's
Right,
exactly it. That's exactly
That's a
it.
good point, right?
Right. Whatever you take, any medication you take, any food perhaps, there's always going to be a risk. So there's a risk with anything. There's no question. But how much risk are you willing to take for the child? But that's the whole thing. You don't know, and if you don't know, you know the benefit because it's obvious. If someone has hyperemesis, it works to keep them nauseous and vomiting all the time and dehydrated and everything. Versus a risk that's unknown, and that's kind of where I think most physicians are in the ballpark of thinking about it.
Okay. I think, again, I would still disagree that the risks are unknown. Like, I feel like,
We have enough CannaMamas. We
I
have
just,
so
I
many
really
women.
feel like the anecdotal evidence is,
I feel like we can't ignore it. That's
We
the big
definitely
thing.
can't.
Like, I understand that there aren't a lot of doctors that are really wanting to come out of the woodwork and like put their name and their reputation.
But we have women,
but
and lots
yeah,
of
it's
women.
what about the thousands of women who are willing to tell their story, willing to say, okay, this is what I did, this is how I medicated, this is what I was also doing in conjunction with it, and just at least collecting the information.
Well, and that's very valid, but it also comes into anecdotal evidence,
Right.
like Raphael Mechoulam talked about from Israel today, the founder essentially of
Yes.
endocannabinoids.
you know him, the Godfather.
Said he's the godfather, and he essentially said the same thing. There's no studies that say cannabis can affect cancer.
Right,
There's
none.
none. But you'll get person after person after person who says it cured my cancer.
Right.
I'm cancer free because I use cannabis.
Correct.
This and that. And well, okay, but a cure for cancer is 5 years, and did it actually work? And so you'll get people saying the same kind of thing. That yes, it helped, and I'm telling everybody it cured my breast cancer. And well, I don't think so. And so, can it hurt? Probably not. Is it something that someone could stop their chemotherapy to take cannabis instead of some chemotherapeutic drug? I don't think I would do that.
Yeah,
But does it
we have a
hurt?
woman who was like, there's a friend of mine who has pre-cancer on her cervix, she wants to start using cannabis. I was like, she probably should have like a week procedure. And
Probably
Yeah,
go
go
to
see
a
doctor, and that's exactly what I told
Right.
her. I was like, you need to like
Yeah,
get
we
that
don't
taken
want to
care of.
give
Yeah, no.
bad information. We're very cautious
Right.
about the language that we use. That's one of the reasons we say we believe cannabis is safer.
But we believe that
than
women should have the choice to choose their risk versus benefit because
And-
it is our body.
Well, and that's, except to finish the sentence, it's your body and is it your child? I mean, it's your body to do whatever you want, but does the child, for example, have any, not right so much, but does, are you willing to, are you willing to give that risk to your child?
We
perhaps?
argue no.
And that's the
Yes
basic
to the
question.
risk, no
Yeah.
to the rights of the
Right.
child.
They don't have rights until they're born,
Well-
until they have their own.
Thank you.
I was asking Jay to mess with my volume a little bit because I felt like my.
I'm way down. Okay, now I'm way up. Okay.
Sorry, we're playing with it.
I know you do have to go, so I just wanted to thank you so much for your time and teaching us about the cannabis.
Telehealth
Telehealth
evaluation.
evaluation.
From
Telehealth evaluation.
From Hello MD.
Hello, MD.
Very cool. We have a lot of California CannaMama, so we'll be
Yeah,
sure
so if you're a
to-
California CannaMama, check
Go to
out
Hello
Hello.
MD.
Maybe you and
Well, if you're California, well, let me backtrack on that. If you're a CannaMama and you're breastfeeding or
Don't tell them.
pregnant,
Don't tell them 'cause they won't tell
well, but we have had people. I have to say though. I mean, there have been women.
Double-edged sword.
Well, there have been women who've gone through our service, and when asked, because it's a routine question, are you pregnant or breastfeeding, and they say no, and yet they are. They've walked into dispensaries at 7, 8, 9 months pregnant, and the dispensary looks at them and calls us and said, well, verifying this recommendation, did you know that this woman was 7, 8, 9 months pregnant or whatever? And we look at the records and say, no, she did not tell us that, so we're going to rescind her recommendation.
and so the
I'm
difference.
sorry.
I know you have to wrap. I know you have to wrap it up and go, but I feel like
I'm a little angry.
I feel like
It is, it's angry.
you know, in the state of Colorado, I can only speak for, I worked at a dispensary for a little while, and we were expressly, you know, told you cannot refuse service to somebody because they're pregnant, even, you know, it's at a bar. You can't refuse someone service at a bar if they're pregnant. That's not your right to do.
But they get away with it because it's the recommendation.
But then, yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. So then the dispensary then calls you guys and says like, hey, we want to verify this. And in my opinion, that should be yes,
Illegal,
you know, yes, it's a
against law or
valid,
something.
yes, it's a valid recommendation. No, we did not know she was pregnant. And I think
But we wouldn't have issued the recommendation in the first
Right,
place
and it's like
if they were pregnant. They told us.
exactly. And so I feel like on covering like your end of it is
And
you know,
it's covering-
charting.
it's
How
covering-
long are the cards?
A year.
Okay, so
we
they
can do
can't
we can
get-
do 3 months, 6 months, or a year.
Okay, so they get a card and they
Yeah,
get pregnant
absolutely.
shortly after.
We don't know that. Absolutely, no question about it. And
Would you rescind her card at that point?
at the time she gave us the recommendation, no. Then it's up to the dispensary.
Huh. That's
Because
interesting.
we give the recommendation January 1st. She gets pregnant February 1st. Now it is September, and she's 8 months pregnant. They call us and say, we look at our records. No, she told us that. And then it's up to the discretion of the dispensary to then say, hey, we're sorry, we're just not.
And you know,
gonna give it to you.
I'm not saying I even necessarily disagree with that. I feel like from a medical professional standpoint, I don't practice, but I'm a nurse. Like I feel like charting on your end that, you know, so-and-so dispensary called, notified practice that so-and-so is pregnant, visibly pregnant, you know, notified dispensary that we would not recommend, you know, whatever, serving her or however you want to phrase that, we would not recommend continuing care. But I mean, but to punish her by taking away her card that's giving her the benefit of like anti-nausea or anti-pain relief or, I mean, whatever.
Seriously, that stuff is really great for labor.
For labor pains.
I think just.
I had no idea.
Epidurals.
I was
That's-
I had at home with midwives. Before my midwife got there, I smoked. That was 7 centimeters, and I was like, "Am I in labor? Are you
Well,
sure I'm in labor?"
I had 2 children, no.
I couldn't even tell if
I'm
I was
with
in
you
labor.
though, epidural, why
You see, and-
why
and-
have pain if you don't have to?
And that's exactly why,
It was
for
so
pain,
relaxed.
pain is the top condition that when we did our survey, worked out hands down as the biggest symptom in medical condition that people use cannabis for. So it absolutely works.
I think that not only did it help with my pain and labor, but it helped me relax. in a relaxed form.
Of course, anxiety and all that
super
stuff.
quick, right? Yeah, and so I like that. It was great for me.
Well, when you're in a hospital, that can't happen, so we turn to epidurals,
Or
which is an
edibles. We actually
anesthesiologist.
have a lot of CannaMamas who use edibles during labor. They like sneak them during labor, and I have to like give
Now-
them props.
Now, if they do that, of course, the risk they run is if a nurse or someone finds it in their
Correct.
system,
Oh, yeah.
they
But
immediately.
they run
That's-
that
I
risk
mean,
anyway. Most of them
yeah.
run that risk anyway because they've been consuming anyway.
That's what we have, like, you know, hundreds of women in these groups that we reach out to, and a lot of them, their first interaction with us is, hey, I'm in the hospital still, like
They're testing
24 hours postpartum, and they're testing meconium, and, you know, I had a social worker in here, and they said they're gonna send CPS down my way, what do I do? And, you know, then from there, all we can do is try to support them, but that's where I was saying, I wish that there were more physicians who were just
Willing to stand behind us.
willing to say, like, not even necessarily support what we're saying,
Just
but
to back up.
to say, like, hang on, they might be onto something here, it's not
But
as
even if the doctor would say that, I don't know the laws here in Colorado, but I would imagine that it could be that that's the law from the child services department, and no matter if the doctor says, yes, I recommended it to her, she should have taken it, I told her to take it, so we don't really care.
Right,
You know,
you're
this is the
right,
law,
you're right.
this is the way it is.
Exactly, and it is not at all
The
the
physician's
physician's fault, but I'm just saying that, like, it would be nice to
It would
to
probably
start
help
having more doctors
stop
and
that
more
CPS
medical
even,
professionals in general. Like, I told a story about when I was in nursing school and I did my rounds on the OB floor, and I was judgmental. We had like a teenage couple that came in, and she was visibly pregnant, probably 5 months pregnant or so, and she had some spotting in her underwear, and that's what she came into the ER for. And we, as I was reading her labs that came through the fax machine, I was like, you know, to my preceptor nurse, I was like, she's positive for THC.
Now, what did you
like,
do? Did you report it to child services?
They should not report it to child services. It wasn't required, I guess, maybe by law. It was a few years ago, but I really remember being like, why would they even do that? Why is she even here? Obviously, she doesn't care about her baby that much if she's like smoking weed through her whole pregnancy. And I had this older nurse say to me, she kind of like let me vent, and then she was like, I mean, I know where you're coming from, and I know this is a really rural area, lots of conservative views, but I've been a nurse for the last 30 years, and I tell you what, I would rather see a mom come in here testing positive for cannabis and having a full-term baby than seeing, you know, the drug-addicted babies
Right,
or
well,
the
of course.
cigarette babies.
Yeah.
And so even her just saying, like, listen, hang on, you know, yeah, maybe she shouldn't be doing it, but
It made
it's
you
not,
rethink it,
it's not
did
that, yeah, it caused me to think twice, and that's why I'm just saying I wish that more medical professionals would be a little more transparent about what their thoughts are and not be quite so afraid of backlash.
I actually have a doctor that she knows that I nursed, and like we briefly like touched on cannabis. She's like, oh, I was like, yeah, my husband is getting out of the army. It's like we're moving to Colorado. I was like, he's got really bad problems with cannabis, bad anxiety. Yeah, I have really bad anxiety, so I also use cannabis. I'm a nursing mother. I don't take anxiety pills. Refuse to take anxiety pills because as much as doctors want to tell me that they're safe, I don't trust them enough, like,
Yes,
to
you should.
teach them
Sure.
and, you know, nurse my daughter, and so I choose cannabis, and I feel like that women should at least have that right to choose between the two.
And you know
You're
what,
right, the scheduling is a problem.
I feel like I'm so completely in support of the doctor here with the fact that
I am.
if the law, that's why like legislation
But it
matters
needs to
too,
change, yeah.
because it's not fair to ask a nurse or a doctor to put their livelihood, their
Oh, no, I
education,
agree.
their future at risk because of this. So
But we
laws do need to
I
change.
get that completely.
Something has got to
Wait,
get
we
somewhere.
can't all talk at the same time, guys. Okay, so let's let the doctor know, we'll finish this part of the conversation.
Thank you very much for having me here. I'm glad to talk about it from the other side of the coin.
I hope to catch your
Yeah, I was
presentation.
talking to 240.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, no, thanks for having me in the conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was so nice to meet you again.
Same here.
Thank you. We'll keep going, guys,
Same
with
here.
our conversation here.
All right, so.
They can talk about me behind my back.
Yeah, no, let's wait till we leave.
What a jerk that guy was.
No, we are so
No,
appreciative.
no, no.
Thank you.
We appreciate you very much. We appreciate your
Okay,
perspective. Thank you.
thanks very much.
Alright, so hey guys, so what did you, we're not done, you know, the show's not, we're not done with the radio show, but what did you guys think about that? I mean, did you feel like there were some questions answered? Do you feel like you got anywhere with it. I don't know, just what do you think?
I
And
love how
then
Jay got a little upset there. That was some good passion.
I really want-
I appreciate it. Yeah.
I want Gina to let us know if we have it, what other, or if we do have any other speakers coming in the
I can walk
radius.
around and grab some people, I want to have,
Give us a few minutes of downtime before going into the next one. It's noon, so that took, you know,
everyone is going to be coming out for lunch right now, so you probably just grab whoever, but, I had somebody else on the list, and like, I totally spaced who the hell I wanted to come on and talk with us.
look in your messages. I feel like you might have said.
Yeah, let's go
Let's look at
ahead
the
and,
comments.
let's talk about the comments and then talk a little bit about what the doctor said. I think, you know, he made good points, and I have to agree with him. I think from a medical perspective, there's only so much that they can actually say without the scientific and legal backing. I think more important.
Project, Gina. They can't hear you.
Project, sorry. I think that more importantly for us is getting the doctors on board with helping us change the laws. Like, we're not going to get anywhere legally or medically without the conjunction of the two.
So we're getting some more guests in here. I'm gonna go ahead and keep reading through the comment section. So Alyssa kind of said this was a comment that was more geared toward the doctor, but I'm sorry we didn't read it out loud. Right, so you caution us, but don't you think these things shouldn't be prescribed in the first place because they don't know what these things can do to your unborn child versus no proof of detriment from cannabis consumption? Alyssa, I mean, really, I think the doctor did a good job covering it, but I think that it really is the fact that that was his point, that we can't be sure of what's going to happen. So I'm sorry, I'm going to keep reading. Alyssa also said, how can doctors support big pharma and push these drugs in the first place? Do you become a doctor to heal or to profit off the sick? I think they do both. In most situations, you know.
Everybody has to pay
It's okay.
bills.
Right, yeah.
It's okay, Alyssa. Like she apologized for being like angry and like forward, but I mean, please don't be sorry. She said, I smoked my entire pregnancy, and my daughter's the picture of perfection. If I was on antidepressants or mood stabilizers, pain relievers, anti-inflammatories, she most definitely would not have been born okay. Who knows if I would have been even carried to term had I taken all those things that the doctors prescribed for me. And so, yeah, we get it, Alyssa, and that's why we're saying, like, we don't think that the anecdotal evidence should be completely overlooked. Like, hello, we're here, it matters. But he was kind of trying to explain from a medical side, what his limitations are. And yeah, unfortunately, if it is, if your legislation in your state is written a specific way, it's not fair to ask the doctors and nurses who take care of you to risk their licenses and their futures to break the law for you. The real thing should be trying to get the law changed. So more comments about not hearing Gina. And then Kaylee or KL said we can be sure that side effects of the drugs being prescribed causing autism. I'm sorry, I don't know what that was supposed to say. That like kind of seems to have maybe not been put together the best.
That's okay.
Try it again.
We can move on to,
So.
we have Coltyn in I'm used to
His
saying in the house.
Hi, I'm Daphne.
Hi, Daphne. It's nice to meet you. I'm Wendy.
I'm Amanda.
I'm Daphne.
Hi.
I'm Daphne. So.
I'm Amanda.
Nice to meet you.
All right, so we met a while ago, and it was, I think it was at a Cincinnati. I'm not really sure.
No, it was
where.
at legislation. Was it at legislation?
Yeah, it was at. Well, no, I think I met him even before that. Charlotte Green was there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. That's what it was. No, it was patient.
Was it Patient Alliance?
No, it wasn't patient. It was.
I forget. It was your church lunch. It was your You're right. It was.
So do me a favor, you guys. If you can't hear, please tell us. Because we have to talk into these for the radio show, but we can project our voices better for you guys to hear if you're having a hard time.
About it. We just are grateful that you came and talked to us for a few minutes.
Oh, I had plenty of time to talk.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, so for our viewers, I know who he is. Will you tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're important to the cannabis community?
Well, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 11. My name is Coltyn Turner.
Coltyn, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And real quick, Coltyn can be found on several social media sites. Do you want to go ahead and give me your website?
you can get a hold of us at Coltyn's Crew on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, .org.
Okay, great.
So my name is Coltyn Turner. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 11. It's a form of IBD. And when I was diagnosed, I went from pharmaceutical to pharmaceutical, each one being worse. I was actually diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis and medically induced lupus thanks to some of the pharmaceutical medications that I was on, along with a whole long list of other medications with a whole ton of other side effects as well. And we were down to my last resort. I had three options. I could either go on another pharmaceutical that would increase my chances of developing T-cell lymphoma by 66%.
And that's a form of cancer?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure because
And it's fatal. I would not have survived.
Oh wow, that's a really high number.
Yeah, that's,
what was your other option?
I could have surgery. It would mean that I would have removed 22 centimeters of inflamed bowel.
Oh my god.
It may not help my Crohn's. I would have a bag on my side for the rest of my life, and I wouldn't grow anymore. Or we can look up alternative treatments. And we started researching Colorado.
And so where are you from?
I'm originally from Southern Illinois.
What? From where?
we call it migrants.
Yeah,
Because I don't feel like a refugee.
Jerseyville.
I
It's
don't
just-
know
what.
Jerseyville. It's just north of St. Louis.
Okay, cool, because I'm from like Effingham.
Okay.
Ah,
Yeah, we
So,
compete.
like, Effingham.
I
Effingham.
compete with gymnastics with
Yeah.
Effingham.
Uh-huh.
We're really
Yep.
good.
That's awesome.
You always have to say Southern Illinois because otherwise they go,
They
oh,
do
Chicago.
Chicago. Yeah, I always say like southern, like rural Southern Illinois. But yeah, that was just interesting because you guys said that. I was
So
like,
what
wait,
did you
where?
ask? I can't remember why I have
Because you called her a refugee.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
was kind enough to explain why she does not use the term for herself.
Yeah.
Okay, we say migrants because we got it from Rita Kid. Because we're not.
Typically, when you think refugee.
Typically when you think of refugee, you think of somebody that's displaced.
Can you try to project your voice?
Okay. And you feel like that they can't go back to where they're going or where they're from.
Okay.
So we can go back.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when, like Syria,
Like
they
Syria,
have
they can't go back.
refugees, and those people are in a horrible, horrible state. Their lives are dependent on the next place that they're going to be safe, and they can't go back. But we can go back. So we just kind of migrated.
I like that. I like that.
Over
Wow.
to Colorado.
Thank you for taking a moment to explain that.
Yeah,
I do too.
Because I feel like when we say that we're a refugee, that just
Takes away.
demeans
The suffering.
the suffering
Yeah.
of those people in Syria
Yeah.
and other places. That
Love it. Oh my gosh, I love it.
I could not agree with you more, and I will change my language.
Yeah.
I
know.
appreciate that. I
the
love
Rita
it.
Kid changed our language.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so about how old were you when you found cannabis, when you made the decision? So if you were in South Illinois, when you decided to try cannabis, did you have to move to Colorado just to try it?
We did.
Wow, that's a big risk.
Yeah, it's huge.
In order to get my medical red card for Colorado, we had to be residents of Colorado. So we had to purchase property in the state of Colorado and file for a medical red card in order to legally be able to medicate myself.
I just have to commend your parents. Like,
That's
you guys are amazing.
That's so incredible. That's a big-
We're blessed. We're very blessed and fortunate to be able to do this. It's not easy for everyone to do, but you know, it's nothing that any parent would do for their child. So you know, I appreciate the good vibes you're giving me. I really just feel that we're just doing what I need.
Yeah, taking care of your kid and making sure he gets what he needs. I hear that. I mean, I was a card holder in Illinois until like a couple weeks ago. But yeah, it took way too long for all that to happen.
And
You know,
it's
we were just
so
speaking.
expensive.
It was pretty expensive. You know, we were just speaking with a physician before you guys talking about how. I don't remember what my train of thought was, but I wanted to tell you about living in Illinois. You know, Oh, I was saying the doctor that I finally got to to sign my recommendation. He wanted me to be on. He wanted to put me on a methadone program before even letting me have the option of medical cannabis. And I don't know if you know what methadone is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at her face over there.
I know.
It's like the stupidest thing that I've ever heard.
Ridiculous. I mean, at the time, I think I was 23, and he wanted me to go into a methadone program because of my pain control. And I was like, well, can I at least try medical cannabis, because one of my illnesses is on the list of approved conditions. And he was really back and forth about it. I had to write up and sign an agreement with him that once I got my medical cannabis card and could start accessing it, that I would agree to start decreasing my opiates. So I was like, yeah, I'm happy to try, but he was like, the other condition is, he's like, you are my only patient that I'm going to do this for. Do not tell anybody. I don't want to be known as a pot doctor. I don't want to have people coming around from Central Illinois, making appointments with me so they can get a medical card. And I was like, I understand. And I guess the state of Illinois released a list of doctors who support medical cannabis, and because he had signed my recommendation, he made it onto the list of doctors that support medical cannabis. And so he was like, I won't do your renewal, and I won't do, and I was like, he's like, I told you not to tell anybody. I'm like, I didn't tell anybody. I'm sorry. And he was like, well, I'm now exactly what I was worried about happened. And
I'm the pot doctor.
yeah, so I finally,
That's bad.
I thought it was kind of like, we moved here so that I could have access to legal medical cannabis. Yeah, so,
Really?
it was, but then I thought it was totally random that we were here in Colorado for a few months with our address change and everything, and then IDPH sent me my medical card. I was surprised they forwarded that, forward mail, you know what I mean?
Right.
But they did, and so I only unfortunately had the opportunity to go through the dispensary thing once because I went home. That happened to fall within a time I was there where it was legal, and I could get into it. But yeah, we ended up moving here because it was taking Illinois so long to get with the program, and Effingham had the option for grow, and the citizens turned that down. So
Coltyn, you
Go ahead.
Coltyn, you moved here well before the program got started in Illinois, correct?
Yeah, I moved to Colorado in early March of 2014.
And when did you get to try medical cannabis for the first time?
It was pretty soon after that.
So I heard you say that you had established residency. Were you consumed illegally at first? Do you mind answering that?
At first, yes. What we did at first was since I didn't have a medical rec card, the only other way to get cannabis is through a dispensary.
Sure.
So my dad basically went into the dispensary, asked for the highest CBD, lowest THC strain possible, and we basically made pot brownies in our hotel room.
That's great. I love that. Congratulations.
We actually did it illegally in Illinois first. Yeah, to see if it would work. And we did it for a couple of weeks, and then we had to go back to the doctor.
are you willing to
And-
talk about what that experience was like for you trying to find somebody who had weed, or was it no
Dude,
problem?
we live right behind Pop Park.
Gotcha.
So that was really simple. And to be honest with you, it's everywhere. I mean,
I went to the bar in Alaska and was like, who's got it here?
yeah, and people do. I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
It just it's
Did you
been
maybe
known.
buy it? Did you buy it first? Who bought it
No.
first?
We had a friend
Oh,
that had it, and
That friend?
Oh,
Yes,
that's
yes,
that friend.
friends,
Oh,
yeah,
that friend.
that friend.
I'm usually always that friend.
we love that friend.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
Coltyn, would you mind telling our viewers your catchphrase? I love it.
I would rather be illegally alive than legally dead.
Yay! Love it.
Right. That's why I
I
asked you
love
that
that.
question, because I wasn't sure if you were willing to talk about it, but I knew what your catchphrase was. So I was like, hopefully, that should be okay. I won't be stepping on any toes.
Yeah. We're pretty open. We don't.
How do
We don't
people
have these
react to your guys' story and letting your underage son consume?
Or friends and family.
Right? Like, do you guys have any?
Well, honestly, the thing about that is most of our friends and family watched Coltyn for 2.5 years suffer through the medicines that he had to take. And by the time it got to the point where he had those three options, it was pretty much a no-brainer. It was one of those things to, oh, very, very supportive. It was one of those things to where, each medication we were looking at, okay, what are the side effects? What are the good things compared to the bad things that could happen? So when it got to the three options, and cannabis was one of those options that we looked at, it was a no-brainer. There was nothing that we could possibly lose. The only things that were negative was that people were saying, oh, he could be amotivational. He could sit around on the couch and not be a productive citizen. And we look at him at that point, and he was curled up on the couch, not being a productive citizen.
He was already there.
So yeah,
Might as well try.
right. So let him sit on the couch. Now this is unrealistic, but I mean, the side effect of him sitting on the couch, not being productive and not in pain, that was a side effect. Okay, he's not in pain anymore. We'll take that side effect.
Right.
So that's basically where we were at.
So how
So
old were
people-
you first?
I was 14 when I first started the cannabis. We wanted to wait until after my birthday, that way I can have my last birthday there and say goodbye to everybody. And then we left 4 days later.
So you are almost 17 now?
I will be 17 in February. Unless
So that's pretty
unless
close.
you-
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. I knew he
It's
was
actually 4.
I was born on leap day, so technically I'm 4.
Oh, I knew you were special. That's interesting. Okay, so you've been medicating now about, 2.5 years?
Yep.
And can you tell us, I watched your story, so I know, but I would like you to tell the viewers, how has your health improved primarily? I know you've grown tremendously.
Well, before I even started the cannabis, sorry, that's my line. Before I even started the cannabis, I was constantly in pain. The only 3 places that I could be was my bed, the bathroom, or on the couch. And all 3 of them would just be in constant pain. I was actually so weak and so withered away that I was losing weight. I was 4 means behind the growth. I was in a wheelchair, unable to stand up for longer than a minute. I couldn't go to Walmart without taking the wheelchair.
Well, I can tell you've grown since the last time I saw you. That's why
Yes,
he
it
is
takes
just
medicine now.
growing leaps and bounds because, and he was just a little taller than me last year. I'm wearing big heels right now, so I can tell you're much taller than me this time. So I don't know how much he's grown in the last year,
He's
but
grown.
That's incredible to see that progress. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, he was in between my shoulder blades.
that was last year.
That was last December. And was it last December? I can't remember.
Now I'm taller.
And I remember when the last speech I heard you give, you talked about that being such an impact in your life, and you weren't, besides the pain and everything else like that, you weren't growing. And now you get to kind of be a little teenager, catching up with your friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, I had no energy. Back in Illinois, we had this group of friends, and we'd always ride our bikes all around town. And I couldn't do that because I was so weak. I had no energy. I was basically sticks in flesh. There was nothing else. And thanks to the cannabis, I'm actually able to do all that kind of thing.
You always say
the cannabis.
The cannabis.
It's the plant. So besides just the pain and your improvement in health, your quality of life is improved. You're making friends. You're able to go out, do stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have a phone?
No. You hear that, ladies?
That's awesome. And so, will you tell us a little bit about how you dose?
Well, we actually have these pills.
You just took it.
Okay, and and that's not pharma pills. That's not Marinol. You're getting this from.
We're getting this from a caregiver. There's this little organization that grows the oil for us.
If I don't touch your pills, can I show them
Yeah.
viewers?
You
you're cool if we mention?
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
This is awesome, that's so cool. I never seen like that.
So this is made just for you though?
Yeah, it's made specifically to deal with microbes. It has, that one pill has 15 milligrams of both CBD and THC, and I take 4 of those a day.
Now, the pills, like, because they're done like that, they don't get you high, right? I heard that they cancel each other out kind of thing, like, as far as, like, that high is that true?
Well, when we first started, we basically just wanted to get as many cannabinoids in me as possible without getting high.
Okay.
And we found out that this amount is perfect for it.
And how long did it take you to figure that out? I mean, kind of play with it a little bit?
Yeah, it was trial and error because when we first showed up to Colorado, no one knew how to treat Crohn's with cannabis.
Sure.
So when we stumbled upon our first caregiver, we were like, my parents were like, where do we get it? He's like, I don't know.
Right.
Take this, try and figure it out. Because no one knew. But now that people are starting to research it more.
Sure. So, okay, what was the worst experience side effect of cannabis? Like, of all the times you tried it, you were doing the trial and error, I'm sure at some point you might have messed up. What was the worst thing that you felt? So, these people are always talking about the negative side effects of cannabis, what could happen to you, what could happen in years of the worst that happens.
Well, that kind of depends on the strain. At one point, I was on a strain that had a cannabinoid called THCV in it. Now, THCV is a appetite suppressant, which was bad for me because I was actually trying to gain weight and I was losing weight.
I have a problem with that. I have IBS and some strains that I take, the same, they make me more like I don't want to eat and it's
Right.
completely counterproductive. Yeah.
Yes.
So what else?
Well,
It sucks. I got
It does suck.
that's about it. That's basically the only negative thing that I've experienced with cannabis. Not that it's negative. I mean, THCV would help a lot of people who want to lose weight or things like that.
I lost 100 pounds smoking cannabis.
Yeah, it's great. And it's great for diabetes, and it's great cannabinoid. It's
Yeah.
just not great for people who who actually, I mean, Crohn's patients die from malnutrition, and that's the main thing that they die from is because they can't eat. So when you're giving him something that suppresses his appetite and he can't eat, he immediately loses weight, and then we're back into that flare mode and back into the malnutrition, and we can't do that. We went to the doctor and he had lost 3 pounds, and the doctor I thought was going to come unglued. And because 3 pounds is a lot,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we just have to be very, very careful and vigilant.
And in that effort, do you have your cannabis tested? Does your caregiver have it tested?
Yes, we have the cannabis tested. We actually testified for testing. It was one of the first times I had ever really testified, and I basically walked up and I said, if I know what's in a Hershey's bar, why can't I know what's in my medicine?
And how do you feel about the criticism that different labs are using different methods of getting different results in the same cannabis? I know how important that is for medical patients.
Well, I mean, everyone takes it in a different way. Everyone has their special, I guess, kind of key to their lock. The way my mom describes it is everyone has a road, and each road has so many potholes. You gotta find something that will fill those potholes.
The testing.
The testing is very important because if I have anything in my system that's bad for me, I will go into a flare and go to the hospital.
So you need to
But when it comes, and he probably doesn't understand that question as much. When it comes to having a standardized test, that is the next step that we have to do, because there are a ton of labs out there that are doing quality work, but they don't have a standardized method. And so we can take his medicine to 3 different labs and get 3 different results. And That's not right.
Right.
That's not right. We gotta figure this stuff out before the pharmaceuticals companies do and they take over.
Exactly. And I know you're about to say capital all the time. We have game players. Is there anything we can do as CannaMama, our movement?
Come to the Capitol.
Yeah, keep coming to the Capitol.
Yeah.
We need moms, patients, activists to continue to fight for these regulations so that when we're having our cannabis tested for patients and mostly it's for patients, recreational users is not as important.
No.
Of course, we all want to still quality cannabis,
But
but
recreational users, they know what's in their Hershey bar.
that is true.
So it should be for everybody.
It should be for everybody.
I think everything should be tested because I don't use it. I'm not a medical patient. So if I were to use it, it would be recreational. And I would want to know how many milligrams I just took. So maybe next time I don't take that much, or maybe I take a little bit more. Or pesticides, microbials, mold. I mean, they don't just do tests for potency. They do tests for so many other different variables.
I think that's the most important thing, especially for, like what you were saying, you don't get a flare if there's something in the cannabis that's not supposed to be there.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for giving us your time. Is there anything else you want to add or forgot to ask you that you usually tell people?
Before we started the cannabis, we had a colonoscopy to see just how inflamed my bowel was. And it had inflammation, ulcers, scars, tissue, you name it, it was in there. Then we had another colonoscopy 7 months after I started cannabis, and it was completely clear.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So the doctor that we just had on our team said, we can't credit cannabis for those things. They say it's like we just don't know, like how doctors are right? Like we don't have these things to prove cannabis first. I feel like cannabis is there.
Yes, 100%.
Would never doubt it.
Never doubt it. Not a single shadow of a doubt. Cannabis saved my life. Oh.
You have no idea how many times I've done that.
It's a long story.
Anyway, thank you so much for your time, and we're so glad to have you here.
Thank you guys for joining us.
Absolutely.
Thanks for letting us
Nice to meet
come
you.
on and talk to us.
I'll hug too.
Of course.
Let's hug.
Everybody.
I'm so glad you're feeling better.
Thank you so
If
much.
you
Yeah.
get the message out that cannabis is good, then we'll do it.
That's what we're trying to do.
No hugs for me.
And I have something exciting to tell you guys in a second, as soon as we
Thank you very much.
end one segment. I will tell you about what we're getting ready to do.
All right, thank you so much.
And you're gonna take a.
Thank you.
Bye.
God, why, thank you.
Be careful.
Hang on. Okay, guys.
All right, I don't even know what time it is.
I'm not trying to be
It
done.
is 12:30.
So, you know what I'm really excited about? I was just standing out there talking to
Ashley.
Heather Manis and 2 other nurses.
Okay.
They're gonna grab some food, and then they're gonna hop in here and do the opposite side of, like, you know, we have the physician who was saying, as a medical professional, like, we don't know for sure, so we err on the side of caution. I'm about to bring you guys 3 nurses who just, as I said that to them out there, they were like, we absolutely have proof that it works. Absolutely. And they're so they were like, do we need to come right now? We're really, the one of them was like, I'm really
They were just
hungry.
right outside. I seen them.
Yeah, they said they were hungry, so I was like, well, I don't want you guys to be hungry during our chit chat, and something tells me we might run a little over if we have any good conversation happening.
What I do want
But
to
they're
answer
coming
a few
right
questions.
back.
So Stephanie asked who the gentleman was that was talking with Dr. Solomon. That's Citizen J, yo. That's our engineer, and
What?
he
Come in?
owns-
Oh,
I have a whole plate of food.
You
I'm like,
here.
okay, yeah.
Come sit next to me, right here.
I'm so
Citizen
hungry.
J is our engineer, but he also owns talkradio.com and has his own show, La
I don't want to put
Revolucion.
You like Eric? I understand that.
I know, I've been around for
And he does that show with
That's what I was trying to eat real quick.
the outstanding Larissa Bolivar. So please check out her and Citizen J show. It's awesome.
They are gonna, that's kind of some exciting news. We just had a doctor, you know, say in here saying nobody wants to really give you No, people don't really want to sit, put their nose in the cannabis thing unless they have to. And I have been wanting to meet Heather Manis for like over a year. And
we did, remember when we did that meeting with her and she sent us a special email and I got all fangirl?
yeah, I was like, I've wanted to meet, I think most of you guys know, but like I'm a nurse by trade, that's what I went to school for. And Heather is a nurse who's like one of the many who are handfuls that are trying to move things forward. And one of the three that we have, three nurses coming in, let's see, we have Nurse Marcy, Nurse Julie, and Nurse Heather coming in here in just a few minutes. And when I was out there telling them about, the physician's standpoint, where they were coming from at the beginning of this topic, I was like, oh, nobody wants to, because there's not any proof that it works, nobody wants to like say that. And she was like, we absolutely have proof. Like, absolutely. And she thinks they think it's really cool that we're like, trying to be a resource for pregnant and nursing moms. Sorry, Gina, that I took the last of your water.
Oh, don't worry.
I jacked that. I was gonna are we gonna be going longer than usual?
We might be.
A bit, I think. I was already okay with the idea of going over.
I'm fine with it too.
Gina said she's fine with it, so as long as we have people that are interested still and want to hang out,
Having a conversation.
we can go forward a little bit. So,
I mean, that was the point of us
Heather-
being here, right?
It is. It's pretty awesome that they allowed us. We did not pay for it. The fact that the conference allowed us to have access to all these amazing, outstanding, educated individuals. Like, I feel very, very
Jack.
How did you get that? How did you do that?
I asked. Actually, Mary, who is the great niece of Henry Anslinger, who is like the reason cannabis is illegal today, she's hosting this conference and she's been doing amazing cannabis advocacy work, trying to say sorry for the shit that her great uncle did. To listen to her tell the story is absolutely hysterical and funny, but hysterical and funny. Fascinating stuff. But she asked me to come and volunteer, and I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. Like, I don't have anything to do right now, and I asked her if I could do it. Yeah, scratch my back after.
So Heather, when she comes in, she's got these super long braids. They like go down to her butt, past her butt.
I love it.
And then we have, I think they said Nurse Julie is an OB pediatric head of something. I think we're gonna obviously get everybody's credentials when they come in here, but they are out there standing at that table eating.
Show we might have ever had.
Yeah, everybody's really excited about the show. Everybody's like, are you going to be longer? Of course, we're okay.
Stay longer?
Yeah, everybody's saying they're happy they're here today. I'm sorry, Amy Beth, that there's a lot of background noise. It's just kind of part of it. We're trying not to talk over one another while also trying to not yell into the microphone, but still project our voices.
You know what, while we're waiting for them to come on, I'm going to go ahead and read Nurse Heather's bio real quick. Nurse Manis is a native New Mexican and registered nurse specializing in all aspects of medical cannabis care. She is founder of the Arizona Cannabis Nurses Association and was honored for her efforts and awarded Canna Awards Best Charitable Community Outreach Program and Cannabis Business Awards Activist of the Year. She believes cannabis is a gateway to health and it will be a first-line medication of the future. And as a side note, she's amazingly humble and easy to talk to. Like, I got the chance to meet her a few times in conference, and she's a very humble person.
I'm really excited for you guys to get to talk with her from another medical professional standpoint. Actually, a trio of them that are going to come in.
I have to move. I'm wondering if I need to come sit over next to you.
You could, yeah, you can share space. It's okay. So I kind of fangirled out there. I was like, Jay came in and was like whispering to me that he had been out there. Something just came, just lost blood. It just came from blood.
Sorry.
I think we probably lost everything.
My bad.
I don't know. Ask Amanda Hefner if we're still on.
Hey, Amanda Hefner, can you tell us if we're still on TotalRadio.com?
I don't think we are though. Oh wait, hang on. Yeah, I think we're good.
I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay, Shannon.
So I'm not sure if I've hit play or not.
I'll go find you.
So Alyssa Patel, I think we're repeating some of these questions because we're doing them at different times, but just so you know.
Like they're getting you from here, and when you're like looking down or when you're talking to somebody, they can hear you.
I really, if you guys can get on togradio.com for today and do the double thing that we used to do, it's probably going to work best for everyone because of the background noise. We don't have the quiet studio setting.
Yeah, we don't have like there's usually like pads up on the wall that help with the acoustics and stuff, and so
That's why you're able to hear it without headphones typically. So if you're not able to hear me and very interested in the rest of these
we're on
interviews-
still.
Okay, great.
Amanda, we're good. Lady A, we're good. We're on still.
Please just
Yeah, with Jay, he's like, you're good.
Battery critically low.
just use another. My battery's critically low.
That says battery critically low.
I have one. Hold on.
It's in.
I can't even bring up coming out with CannaMama Clinic on my phone. I don't know why.
So I'm really excited for you guys to kind of see the other side of this with the other nurses. Thank you that we were sounding good on the Talk Radio app, whoever said that, one of our admins. But Gina's got to plug it in Enlighten Gem. I have no idea who that is. I don't know anybody's sign-offs.
I know about it.
I'm like, whatever, it's
So
okay.
my cord's not gonna be long enough. We're gonna have to change angles.
Okay.
Oh, we're gonna lose that.
So we're gonna have to move around a little bit because the phone needs to be charged, and so we're gonna have to kind of play with angle. Let me fix this. I'm gonna put up my mic for the moment, and we're just trying to let them kind of get a couple bites in their stomach so they don't feel so hungry and rushed or anything. We don't want them to feel hungry and rushed while we're talking. So we're gonna give them a second. But and anyway, I was saying that like I have been wanting to meet Heather Manis for like over a year, and my job at the dispensary, like they were gonna totally let me come see her speak one time because I was like all really about it. I'm gonna move it still for you. I'm just trying to.
Watch out, because this one's about to come over. Out.
Okay. Well,
There we go.
okay. Got it. So now we're gonna have to figure out how to get at a decent angle without. Okay. So I'm trying to figure that out. Actually, this is not too bad. I just go a little bit more this way. It's not too bad at all, actually. I think you'll be able to see me
everybody.
sitting right there. And we might have to kind of
I'm probably gonna come sit over.
fan out a little bit whenever we get our nurses in here to talk. But kind of just an opportunity for you guys to see from, like, I was Heather when I was standing out there. I was like, I've wanted to meet you for over a year. I'm so excited. I can't. She was like thanking us for what we're doing with like, CannaMama Clinic and trying to be a resource for moms. And so we were just chatting for a second, and I said something like, the doctor was just saying that nobody knows for sure how cannabis is going to how it's going to affect somebody or a fetus. And they were like, they were like, yeah, we absolutely know what's going to happen. We absolutely know it's safe. Like, we aren't guessing. And she was telling me about just some of I'm really excited because she was like telling me about some opportunities for me to kind of continue being involved in Colorado legalization and normalization across the country. So they'll be in here in just a second. I'm gonna get my big face back in my seat. I'm sorry, I didn't realize Lady A was talking on the mic too. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been I wouldn't have been talking over you. I'm sorry. I'm sure that was really hard for you guys.
We sat there and dabbed with this pen that I'm holding in the bathroom.
Okay, so
And this girl.
you guys gotta talk about project.
Okay, so projecting. So
Good. See,
we're
I know you can be loud
we're
enough.
sitting here talking about the dab pen. If you are sitting here watching us dab, and we're sitting here in a conference room, I made a post in our group about how I was dabbing in the bathroom of a Chuck E. Cheese's, because that's where this birthday party was. Now I'd like to let everybody know that there was nobody in the bathroom. Like, we went into a stall. Yes, please do. We went into a stall, and we were very discreet, very proud about it. Hit it a couple times, came out, we were done. And then later on,
You cannot smell
you
it.
can't smell this. Like, we have this door open to this conference room, and you can't smell it, guys.
Like, ain't nobody coming in here yelling at us for smoking in here. Nobody is yelling at us. Do you see that? Like, it's there and it's gone. Done.
Bye-bye.
But then later on, we had gone outside to smoke a bowl, and this lady went off on me for dabbing in the bathroom, and how dare I, and how irresponsible and trashy of me that was.
She didn't see you. She read your story.
She read my story. She didn't see my story, and she's like, "That's disgusting, and shame on you, and this is why we're having a hard time legalizing it." No, civil
people like you.
because of people like me. But civil disobedience. We're sitting here, and I'm not doing anything differently than what I did in that Chuck E. Cheese bathroom. In fact, this is more open than I was in the Chuck E. Cheese bathroom in a fucking stall by myself. But
You nasty woman.
Nasty woman. I'm like, Gina. Oh my god, I want to see some stuff. Hold on, let's see the comments on this. This she was so judgmental. I know. It was crazy. Like, she went off on me and told me how it was so illegal and whatever have you. I would just like to point out that going outside to smoke that bowl is just as fucking illegal.
Right, yeah.
It is just as illegal as us all three sitting here dabbing in this hotel right now.
We're totally breaking the law.
We're breaking the law right now, guys.
So since we jumped right in with the doctor this morning, I'm gonna go ahead and read our mission right quick. Just
Yeah, for anyone that's like maybe jumped on.
Totally.
This is a little bit of a special show today. Well, it's not a little bit, it definitely
Absolutely,
is
yeah.
a special show today. So we're gonna probably go a little bit over on time to try to give you guys as much content as possible.
So you are viewing Coming Out with CannaMama Clinic on COWCMC. We are not in the treehouse today at 710 Pipes off Colfax. Today we are at the Westin in Denver, downtown Denver, and we are at the Medical Marijuana Professionals Conference. We've had Dr. Perry Solomon on the show with us today. We had Coltyn Turner on the show with us today. I'm really stoked that we were able to have him. I love that kid. And now we are about to have Nurse Heather Manis and her colleagues, and it's been pretty awesome. I can't gluten and dairy. Get your robe on.
Oh my god.
Oh, this is my lunch right now.
Can I have one?
You can have two.
Okay.
I actually brought some boiled eggs. That isn't that appetizing.
I can't believe I just got lunch. That was magical. Just pure.
I love when men do that. Bring me food, right? Okay.
Jane knows how to treat a lady.
Thank you, Dad. Let's see if we have any more comments really quick before we get to the next one. I understand. I'm so sorry, everybody. It's not the easiest to hear. If you cannot hear us, please join into
TokeRadio.com, you guys.
It's TokeRadio.com.
Lady A, why don't you slide over here with me?
Oh, yeah.
There.
There's stuff
Come on in.
I don't know that I...
Welcome, Nurse Heather. We got this couch for you guys right here. And then we do live stream to our Facebook.
Awesome.
Stuff,
Can I
so-
put a sticker on your box?
Yeah.
I'll take one too, please.
I was just...
Saying that,
Jules
like,
is in the house.
yay! So we have Nurse, I almost said Nurse Jackie.
Julesy! Julesy is in the house.
A sticker. Sticker.
Thank
Brand new
you.
never
Thank
opened.
you. Thank you.
That's
For my purse, so sometimes I get
Thank
a
you.
little
Thank
fingers on
you.
there.
Oh,
yeah.
Little goobers.
Oh, thank gosh, I have,
Thank you.
I have one last. I have actually one last. Are we on 12?
Yeah, we're streaming.
It's
Yeah, we're
Facebook Live.
So
There.
Facebook Live, here we are, Cannabis Nurses Magazine.
I just read Nurse Heather's bio from the magazine for everybody.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, excellent.
So we kind of give them a little background.
So
on
you
who
guys can
are.
get comfy on that couch.
I'm coming over.
Yeah.
I'm coming over. I just had the
Yeah,
brand.
just made a few back there. We go.
And so,
I'm gonna have you on that side. Is that okay?
So unfortunately, we don't have the proper number of mics and headphones.
So you guys have to share.
If you don't mind sharing a mic, and then we can all hear each
you
other.
and I can
so-
share a mic.
Okay, we can share a mic. Yeah, I'm down with that. Go for it.
So there's
There
a
you
mic
go.
for you guys.
Awesome.
Lady A and I.
Right
And
here.
we
Ears for me.
I try to remind everybody to project if they can.
There's
'cause
these
the-
headphones too.
I'll use those.
The
You guys actually should switch because these don't go very far. So who's ever on the end gets that.
Somebody gets earbuds, somebody gets, yeah.
Alright,
So, and then we're Facebook Living, that's happening, and so whenever we're actually get into conversation, you
What
might
we got on
wanna,
there? What are things being said?
oh, lots
Her
of stuff.
braids. Oh, awesome. Who said
All right,
that?
who's watching the
Read me some stuff.
Her braids, all the energy, love it.
Hey.
Canna screenshot it and post it in the comments. That's weird. Facebook is just a prohibition these days. Jesus. Okay, I will when it happens again. I don't know what happened. It keeps popping up and then my screen goes black and then it takes forever to pop back up.
I don't know you guys, so, yeah, we can move around for a
Can someone explain to me while I'm watching this live? Facebook keeps asking me to report this.
Facebook's asking to report.
People asking to report it.
If you accidentally shake your phone, it does that. If you have an iPhone, if you shake your phone,
Don't shake your phone.
It gives you the option to report what you're seeing. So we're gonna go ahead and like jump into this because we don't. Yeah.
Lady A, angle it at our guests because that's who they want to see. They see
Yeah, right.
Oh, there we go. Now we're going to sit back.
everything out.
Is that good?
I was saying that I was like fangirling over Heather over here because I really wanted to meet you so badly, and my old job, I worked for a dispensary for a short period of time. Once I got sick enough to where I couldn't really nurse anymore, but I wasn't ready to not work at all. So I was working at a dispensary, and they paid for me to go see you talk. I think it was like at the Cannabis Summit last year, or the last one, I don't know. You were talking, you were doing something, and I wanted to go see you, and I was so excited about it, and then I was sick, and I wasn't able to make it, so I was bummed. So then when I found out you were here, I was like, shut up, and then Jay said we were going to talk with you. That made me even more excited.
Yay, well, I'm so happy to be here. And I'm not sick. You know, you can hear my voice is a little raspy. I want your listeners to know I'm not sick. This is a side effect of legalization in California last Tuesday.
Yeah, so you're scratchy.
I mean, I had to scream and yell and you know, do it upright for cannabis legalization.
Well, can we jump right into a question then? Because we had so many CannaMamas concerned with legalization in California.
I did want to say though, just so that you guys know before we started, kind of who you're. Come in, welcome. Hi.
There's
Oh,
Marcy.
Marcy, we gotta get Marcy on here.
You guys can grab those
we have
because I'm not.
Okay, that one's. Oh no, that's running video.
Hi.
We know how to
Sorry,
shake
guys.
it up, as nurses.
So what we're your audience, I guess, that you're talking to are primarily moms who are either pregnant and treating for HG, or full-term nursing and are medicating for whatever reasons they're medicating and are continuing to nurse through that. I was telling them while we were standing outside about the girls that did a urine test on their toddlers. Just curiosity, you know, if they would.
Who drew that?
Our CannaMamas and the
Oh, so you guys did it yourselves?
No, it was just like our members basically. So I just had the idea of like, well, we full term breastfeed, and so and our kids are getting ready to kind of potty train. So when next time your kid pees in the potty, get out one of those dipsticks and let's just see. It definitely wasn't like a super scientific based situation, but just out of curiosity if they would test positive.
Because people tell us all the time, oh, you're giving your kids high.
Yeah, we're getting-
passing the THC directly to the. And they just had on Dateline a doctor from Pueblo that said 7 times the THC is.
Don't get me started on
My
that.
word.
Oh, we want to get you started on it.
Come on, please.
Get started, get mad.
No.
It's such horseshit because truly, a woman, her anandamide levels go up when she is pregnant, and I hear a noise. What is
Sorry, I
that?
don't know. Daphne, when you moved,
We created a noise.
Come back.
it's the.
Are they too close together, like mics?
Oh, it's you. You know what? It's
It's
your.
my phone. The phone.
The phone?
Because she moved it closer
Got
to
it.
my phone.
Sorry about that.
Solution.
So anyway, we're getting back to the fact that cannabinoids, endocannabinoids, are found in breast milk, and it is imperative and super important for the babies to have this. You know that breast milk is, you know, better for the baby than, say, formula. Well, there's a reason for that. And they talk about the immunity, and they talk about this and that, and the fact they gain weight better, and that they're leaner, this and that, whatever the conversation is. But the truth is breast milk is better because of these endocannabinoids that are part of the system that keep the brain healthy, that help baby. We don't have enough research on it. We really need to have more. But the research that's been done by Melanie Dreyer out of Jamaica showed that babies that were exposed to cannabis through their mothers, that they were actually healthier, that they scored better. And so we really have to look at this and say, we cannot treat mothers differently, because what do we do on alcohol bottles, right? It says, don't use while you're pregnant, there's a warning for this. We damn well know that fetal alcohol syndrome is a reality for mothers who consume a lot of alcohol, that there are mothers, and I know because I'm a nurse and I've cared for mothers that are pregnant and they've given birth to their babies and then they were nursing and they continue to use cannabis because of their seizure disorder, their health condition. And these babies are thriving. I have cannabis babies all over the country, and they are healthy, and they are well, and they are going to school, and they're learning, and they're smart, and they don't have problems like ADD or these other things that some medical professionals are saying could be a reality.
We're going to use it to
We're
treat
seeing them be healthy.
I would like to,
So
could you
anyway.
guys maybe go down the line and say your credentials and like where
Let's
you
start
work
with
at
Marcy.
Best?
And let's start this
Because
off.
I've been like on this end, like just talking about being a fangirl, but nobody's. But I want to give you guys the opportunity to say what we're fans of.
Proper introduction. So I'm Nurse Heather, and I do stuff. So just Heather Manus on Facebook, Cannabis Nurse Heather on Instagram and Twitter and stuff. But yeah. I understand the endocannabinoid system. I am a registered nurse. All of us do. And so we're here to spread the truth and the knowledge that we've gained. We do a lot of reading of research, and we want to make sure that the correct information is getting out to the world. So I'm going to pass it on to Nurse Marcy because I'm here with two superstar cannabis nurses.
Thank you.
Thank you, lovely Nurse Heather. I am Nurse Marcy Cooper. I'm a hospice nurse, and I also teach part-time at a university in the nursing department. I have seen amazing things happen in the Denver area over the past several years, really, since recreational cannabis passed. That kind of changed how my hospice patients were able to treat themselves. Also, I absolutely 100% agree with what Heather said. The research that we have on pregnant mothers comes from Melanie Dreyer, and those children were doing excellent and advancing at a faster pace than other babies.
I'm a doctor that we just had in. Could I get any of you to kind of weigh in on this comment? He said, "Oh yeah, there's the Jamaica study, but we don't really." We don't put much weight to that.
Well, that's the only study that should have credence because it's the only one that actually separates the use of other drugs. These other studies that have negative things to report don't separate. Is it cannabis that they're using? Is it alcohol? Is it opiates? Is it, any other kind of drugs, prescription drugs especially? Oh my God, these kids, babies are being born at an alarming rate addicted to opiates because of prescription drugs.
Right.
And one of these parents, or even the anti-epileptic drugs,
And the CPS coming in and taking those opiate addicted kids away from them like they are with cannabis. That's those are some fact realities that we have to make of.
I made that argument with Dr. Bordeaux. I don't know if you saw her, she's here today as well. She actively speaks out against cannabis consumption during pregnancy. And her response to those studies having other drugs such as alcohol, crack, they did not separate, as you mentioned. She said, well, we have statistical ways of factoring that out. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't think you can statistically factor out when the studies are even done. I mean, they didn't differentiate the drugs when the studies were done, except for with that particular study that I'm aware of. I mean, maybe I'm wrong and there's something that I'm not.
No, I agree with you 100%. I agree with you. I thought it was a bullshit answer. To be honest,
Nurse Jules, what about you? What about your introduction?
Well, before we go on, I just want to say one more thing. Nurse Marcy is out here in Colorado. So any of you nurses or colleagues out there that need good support here in Colorado, come see Marcy.
Yeah.
I have to mention in Cannabis Nurses Magazine on page 16, she did an article on palliative care and hospice nursing, and I want to point this out because it goes to the heart. And this nurse, Marcy, she has a heart of gold, and she's really trying to leap out and help our hospice and palliative care patients by getting cannabis in the care kits, those kits when we can't reach the doctors at night, and reaching that population. So thank you, Marcy, for all that. I was happy. I just love you so much. So on that note, my name is, I'm known as Ask Nurse Julesy. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada. I am a registered nurse in the state of Nevada, and very proud of it. And I started out in 2010 not even knowing anything that it was a Schedule I drug, and it was known as marijuana. And I was part of the Nancy Reagan Just Say No Dad. So of Southern California, raised in a very Christian, religious home, and followed everything to a T. And I didn't actually get cannabinoids in my system till the age of 40 when I was really sick, and it saved my life. And I have to say this, cannabis is my medicine. And it is okay as being providers in society that we utilize this. This is a treatment option. Why should we be discriminated because we're medical professionals? We too need to heal. So in bringing it opened Pandora's box. I found out about prohibition and how Nancy Reagan lied to me all these years. And I got, for the first 6 months, I got very angry. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you tell me this. I know everything, but I didn't know this. And we actually had it in 2016 when I came to Nevada to come back and practice in pediatric ER is what my specialty was and is. And I love my kiddos. And I didn't even know it when I realized what cannabis was doing. And I realized the potential it had, not just CBD with THC, and we'll talk about that later. I go, why don't we have this in our hospitals?
Right.
Why aren't our kids, why are we, and I'm finding out more about chemotherapy drugs and how 70% of all chemotherapy actually fails. And these little veins that we're poisoning them with these toxic pharmaceuticals, and they're still sick.
Right.
Okay. And why aren't we able to incorporate that into medicine? How do we get that health care, that link, that bridge? And I think that's where nurses are coming to the forefront of that. So I had met these two wonderful ladies at a Patients Out of Time conference in Portland, Oregon in 2014. And that's when my life really changed. That's when I said, oh my gosh, I gotta tell the world, this is so exciting, we're gonna do all these amazing things. And that's what we're doing. So we created this platform with Cannabis Nurses Magazine because I was tired of physicians, I was tired of my colleagues saying, Jules, you're committing career suicide by talking.
That's what the doctor
And I said, I'm committing human genocide if I don't speak up. And that's how serious
Thank
this
you.
is.
You're so
Okay.
great for being
I have to give you a round, all of you ladies a round of applause. It's huge.
So I partnered with Nurse Heather and Marcy. We've done some wonderful educational events, and we're about uplifting people too. So not only do we have education, we bring the fun into it also, because learning needs to be natural, we're all connected, and how do we get that across? And I believe education is the key to this.
Thank you. That's awesome. I love that.
That's awesome.
Knowledge is power. Yes, my grandma used to say that. I still believe it very, very much.
So here at CannaMama Clinic, really one of our big missions
Oh, I have some of those I can pass around.
Just hold the button and continuously
so-
hit it. It takes a minute, like it has to be on. It's not like a rig.
It takes a
Yeah, it takes a
second,
little
but it
extra
still
work.
works for us. So
Did I even read our mission?
You have to continuously
you
suck.
can actually read our mission
Well,
statement.
it's like a job.
You were going to
Well.
for like the people that popped in, and kind of if you're wondering what we're about or what we do, one of the big thing is that we were part of this secret group on Facebook already, like a mom group, peaceful parenting group. Really, are you double fisting that over there, Nurse Heather?
I
Both of them.
I wasn't sure which was which, so I
There's two
thought.
different strains, and there's our sativas that give us uplifting, but then we also, I have experience in Republic and severe pain, so we need our indicas. So we have to balance it out.
I'll have the indica one for passing.
I actually have a really quick question for Nurse Marcy, because you mentioned that you're still working like in the medical field here in Colorado. Are you facing discrimination? Like you mentioned suicide. How are you feeling about the climate of your professionalism?
We have a lot of problems as far as, there have been nurses and doctors who have been discriminated against for choosing cannabis. So
Oh,
we
I
don't
wasn't even
have that
thinking about
option.
being patients as well.
Oh, I thought that's where I thought you were.
I
So
meant
if you're
working
practicing,
with.
you know, clinician, you don't have that option. On another note, places are starting to become more aware that patients do exist.
Right.
And they're not just this stoner stereotype that they've got in their head that these are patients that need this medicine to function and to improve their quality of life. So we do have some hospitals are starting to go with the approach of the mass tell kind of thing, and certainly they can have cannabis. I think University is one of those hospitals that have started to do some studies with the patients there, the children. Hospices are typically more open-minded and allow their patients to use, and that's the medicine of choice.
But our kiddos at the very early age, this is where we need to start putting and building our endocannabinoid systems by getting cannabinoids in it. So let's not wait till end of life. Let's start with our pediatric kids, and these are the building blocks. This is the nutritional supplement that we need our kiddos to have. And it's not just with CBD, okay? There's a lot of kids that have come from all over the country here to Colorado, and they're finding CBD is not actually, it's working at first, and it's great, but you need that THC, that whole plant cannabis extraction. And Heather, I want you to